Now, we warned Bruce Lehrmann about this late last year. We told him, don't go back for your hat. In other words, quit while you're ahead. Because as we said in December, when you go back for your hat, there's a danger you may lose your head. And that was on display yesterday. It was a disaster for Bruce Lehrmann in the Federal Court of Australia. He's lost the civil defamation case he brought against Channel 10 and Lisa Wilkinson. He alleged that Lisa's interview with Brittany Higgins on the project defamed him, even though he was not named. Now, Bruce could have walked away from the whole situation because he managed to escape any criminal responsibility after his trial was aborted and then abandoned, but he couldn't help himself. He went back to court to seek damages for defamation, and that exposed him to a brutal cross-examination, which also revealed the many lies that he told along the way. Justice Michael Lee has found on the balance of probabilities, Mr. Lehrmann raped Brittany Higgins in Parliament House.
Having escaped the lion's den, Mr. Lehrmann made the mistake of coming back for his hat.
And there was the line. After escaping the lion's den, Mr. Lehrmann made the mistake of coming back for his hat. The court proceedings have been a disaster for everyone involved. No one's escaped unscathed. Justice Lee says both Brittany and Bruce were not telling the truth.
To remark that Mr. Lehrmann is a poor witness is an exercise in understatement. Ms. Brittany Higgins, Mr. Lehrmann's accuser, was also an unsatisfactory witness who made some allegations that made her a heroine to one group of partisans, but when examined forensically have undermined her general credibility to a disinterested fact finder.
Bruce Lehrmann has been awarded just $20,000. His legal bills are likely to run into the millions. So he's the biggest loser out of this case. Lisa Wilkinson is the biggest winner because unlike the ABC and News Corp, she refused to settle. Along with Channel 10, they stood their ground and they fought Bruce Lehrmann the whole way. Mind you, Lisa didn't get off scot-free either. Justice Lee took aim at her Logie speech.
If she had thought matters through as an experienced journalist and less as a champion for Ms. Higgins, she ought to have known the speech was fraught with danger and recognised that lauding a complainant on the evening of a rape trial in the terms she did would be apt to undermine the due administration of justice.
And if you think it's all over, think again. Another defamation battle will play out this year. Linda Reynolds, the former minister, is suing Brittany and her partner David Shiraz, alleging that she was defamed by them on social media. The media lawyer Justin Quill, representing Channel 10, had this brutal assessment yesterday for Bruce Lehrmann.
His Honour has found that Bruce Lehrmann is a rapist. Bruce Lehrmann is a rapist.
There's been no comment from Bruce Lehrmann about that or any possible appeal. Justin Quill, the media lawyer who acted for Channel 10, is with me in the studio. Justin, good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
Heavy language from you outside the court.
Well, heavy language from His Honour inside the court justified it, I think. Ultimately, that's what His Honour found, and so we're able to say that, and we should say that.
I mentioned the comments I made last year about going back for one's hat. You made the same comment a year or two before that, saying, why would you go back after he managed to, I suppose, escape any, criminal responsibility? He's always denied that he was involved in any wrongdoing, obviously, always pleaded his innocence. We need to put that on the record. But after the trial was aborted, why would you sign up for a defamation battle?
Yeah, well, look, he effectively got out of jail, didn't he? And as you said, went back into the lion's den for his hat. Their case theory, Bruce Lehrmann's lawyers thought Brittany Higgins would not turn up. The criminal case was abandoned in part because of the concern about Brittany and her mental health and arguably her inability to turn up and give evidence in that case. They assumed that she wasn't going to turn up in the civil case, and if she had not, Channel 10 wouldn't have been able to defend this.
Justice Lee spoke about lies told by both of them, Brittany Higgins and Bruce Lehrmann, but my observation's this, Justin. A lot of the lies from Brittany Higgins, they had already been revealed long before this defamation case, and we covered them on radio extensively, but a lot of Bruce's lies were exposed during this case, and it didn't look good, and we touched on that while covering the case. When he was being cross-examined and he couldn't make up his mind on a whole range of things, including, most notably, why he went back to Parliament House that night. It was just such a bad look, and Justice Lee kept calling him out over that time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. The parts that Justice Lee was unhappy with in terms of Brittany Higgins' evidence was the peripheral stuff, not the central allegation. In fact, on the central allegation, His Honour said her evidence there struck me forcefully. They were his words. Whereas when it comes to Lehrmann, it was the stuff about the central allegation. It was implausible, his version of events.
That's interesting. So just picking up on that, Brittany Higgins, when she was telling fibs, it was relating to what happened afterwards. Did she go and see a doctor?
Correct.
Was the photo taken at the time and all that kind of stuff? But Bruce's were about that night in question. You know, was he going back there to drink whiskey?
Yeah.
Was he going back to get some official documentation? Was he going back to prepare some material for question time? Was he going back to collect his keys? He couldn't make up his mind.
Yeah, and why did he miss 6 phone calls from his girlfriend? And His Honour said, the reason he went back there was to get his keys because it was a bit hard to get into his flat. And then His Honour went into all the steps that he had to go through to get his keys and said, look, it's absolutely implausible. It makes no sense at all. So whereas Brittany's stuff was after the event, and His Honour specifically said we shouldn't assume that rape victims will do or not do things. Rape victims in the aftermath of trauma shouldn't be expected to act in a certain way.
I want to be clear here as well. Network 10, who you represent, did not get off scot-free. I've touched on the criticisms of Lisa Wilkinson's Logie speech, but Justice Lee said Channel 10's conduct was grossly improper in encouraging Lisa Wilkinson to give the speech. He was also critical throughout the case about the project story, in particular the introduction of the story that focused on a political cover-up and a young staffer who had to choose between telling her story of an alleged rape or keeping her job. Justice Lee was very critical of Channel 10.
Yeah, well, look, on the Logie speech, I just disagree with His Honour. He's a very good judge, but I disagree on this point. It just shows an absolute lack of faith in our juries, as if a jury properly instructed, swearing an oath, seeing evidence in front of them for week after week after week in a criminal case, would think about the implication from a Logie speech a couple of months earlier and suddenly think, I'm going to find this guy guilty. I just don't accept
You acknowledge,
that.
though, that Channel 10 has been criticised by Justice Lee over some aspects of how they've handled things.
There's no doubt about that, but I've got to say this too. His Honour was applying the legal test of reasonableness, and that's where you get judges and barristers picking over journalist conduct many months, sometimes years after the event. Ultimately, how could it be more reasonable than to publish something that was true? And that the central allegation, what this was about, was a rape in Parliament House. That was true. That was published by Channel 10.
When Bruce Lehrmann said to the ABC, to News Corp and Channel 10, you've defamed me, I want some money, the ABC caved. They gave him money. News Corp caved. They gave him money. Lisa and Channel 10 stood up and fought.
Yeah, look, it's really difficult for media defendants. The law is against you. This is such a significant case because it's so hard for media defendants to win them, frankly. So I'm absolutely not critical in any way of the ABC or News Corp. Most cases settle, but good on Channel 10 for fighting this one and putting in the resources to do it.
And some people yesterday were saying, oh, well, thank the Lord it's all over. But it ain't over. You've got Linda Reynolds now suing Brittany and David Shiraz over defamation allegations.
Yeah, look, there's still a lot to play out even in this case. We've got submissions due next week on costs. Look, who knows about an appeal? No, I think there's a fair bit to play out.
Do you think Bruce will appeal?
Look, he shouldn't. He shouldn't, but then I'm not going to. His judgment hasn't been particularly good so far, so I wouldn't want to speculate on his judgment.
We appreciate you coming into the studio this morning, Justin Quill, the media lawyer who's acting for Channel 10. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ben.
For more of the Ben Fordham Show, watch live weekdays 5:30 till 9 a.m. on 2GB.com.
Legal problems can be overwhelming, but you don't have to face them alone. Just one call and the expert at Bryden's Lawyers will be by your side. Bryden's Lawyers, they do support you in your time of need. Terms and conditions may apply. The number to call, 1-800-848-848.